I was invited to Beijing by developer S-Game to play Phantom Blade Zero, and this game is not what I expected. I mean that in the best way possible though, like I was really surprised by how fast and fluid the combat feels and how weapons have a huge impact on how you play. I was also able to learn more about exploration during my 3+ hours of hands-on time and have some extra info from the developers as well. On a quick housekeeping note, the mild mode disclaimer you'll see on the top right of most of the footage is regarding the blood and gore, which YouTube doesn't tend to love. It has no impact on the actual gameplay however, so just pretend it's not there. Okay, so in Phantom Blade Zero you play as Sol, a member of the mysterious order who is pinned for the murder of their patriarch. Of course there's a lot more going on, but I did not engage with much of the story during the demo. Or not the main story anyway, as the area we were able to explore is completely optional. And while it has its own contained little story, it is not tied to the main quest. And that gave me plenty of time to focus on the highlight of Phantom Blade Zero, the combat. At first glance, you might think the game plays somewhat similar to a Souls-like, given the lock-on feature, recharging healing flasks, checkpoints throughout the levels and other genre staples you've become familiar with. But Phantom Blade Zero takes these elements and mixes them with other influences and new ideas to create something very unique, which you immediately feel when you start fighting your first opponent. Just a quick refresher on the game's combat system, light attacks in Phantom Blade do not cost stamina, or Sha-Chi as it is called, meaning you can keep attacking until you have to dodge or parry. You want to mix in heavy attacks too, as these deal extra break damage, depicted by this bar under an enemy's health. Once an enemy is broken, they can no longer block your attacks and every one of your hits will stagger them. Heavy attacks do cost Sha-Chi, and you want to balance this resource carefully, as it is also required for blocking incoming attacks, so running out leaves you open to being hit. And while that is only scratching the surface, I really want to emphasize how aggressive you are able to be. You can transition into a dodge or parry really fast since attack animations are super quick, so there's pretty much nothing stopping you from continuously attacking. The fact that swapping weapons refills your Sha-Chi also plays into this, as you can even extend a heavy combo by transitioning to a different weapon to refill your resources. Enemies themselves also attack pretty relentlessly, especially on the highest difficulty Hellwalker, because yes, Phantom Blade Zero has multiple difficulty modes that you can pick from. Regardless of difficulty, your moveset as Sol is incredibly diverse. With weapon-specific combos, ultimate attacks and your special Phantom Edge tools, you get a combat system that's closer to something like Ninja Gaiden or Devil May Cry. And I want to talk about those Phantom Edge items for a bit, because there is more depth to them than I originally thought. Back when Jordan did his preview, which I'll link to in the video description, we were under the impression that they were simply a selection of ranged weapons. And while the bow you start with and the flamethrower I was able to use certainly fall under that category, I now also had access to a massive axe that I could charge up for a devastating swing, a magic sword that keeps spinning in place like a whirlwind, and a giant hammer with a unique jump attack that slams down and pushes all surrounding enemies away. These tools offer options for massive damage, crowd control and elemental damage, and are way more versatile than simply offering a ranged attack or two. They even extend their use outside of combat, as some Phantom Edge weapons also allow you to unlock new areas of the map. For example, the giant axe can be used to smash through barriers, and the hammer can break fragile floors to open up new spaces. Some of these hide cool rewards, like a new healing potion that instantly restores you to full health but it only has one charge, while others lead you to an entirely new part of the map. What's also cool to note is that club I was using drops from a boss in the area the demo takes place in, and considering that's completely optional, that means that unlocking this item is too, so you can miss out on some valuable loot if you don't properly explore and find all of these tools. And in general, the level I was able to play feels similar in map design to games like Nioh 2 or the first Dark Souls. There's a clear main path, but side paths and hidden areas hold extra rewards or shortcuts back to a checkpoint, which you can then by the way also use to fast travel. And real quick, totally leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for way more Phantom Blade Zero content. So while Phantom Edge tools are a significant addition to your arsenal, the main deciding factor in how you play are your weapons. You can have 2 equipped at a time, and all weapons fall under 3 rough categories: single blades, dual blades and heavy blades. As a trained swordsman, Sol only sticks to swords, but don't underestimate how much variety each individual weapon brings to the table. Every one of the 30+ weapons has at least one unique mechanic, and some even have multiple or unique combos to make them stand out. Take the White Serpent and Crimson Viper for example, a sleek pair of dual blades that has access to some unique combos where you throw out one of the blades mid-combo. Since it has some range incorporated into its kit, you can also use this pair to execute enemies from afar. When enemies get to low health, a button prompt will appear when looking at them, allowing allowing you to trigger a finisher animation that will instantly kill them. There's actually another pair of dual blades that can trigger these from range, the Seamless Death, so you'd expect it to be very similar in other aspects as well, right? Well, wrong. This pair of discus-like blades has a completely different moveset, and the special ranged combos it has access to fire a spread of homing projectiles instead of throwing out a single dagger. Plus, this weapon also allows you to phase out of existence when dodging, so very useful for when you get surrounded too. But yeah, with two kind of similar weapons already offering so much variety, you can see how they have a big impact on the way you play. I would still recommend you try each weapon you come across, if only because all of them have a unique finishing animation that is too cool to skip on. But your two main weapons, two Phantom Edge tools and equipable artifacts will be the main pillars that form your build. While we weren't able to use them in the demo, the devs told us that artifacts provide passive buffs to certain aspects of gameplay, like cutting the cooldown timer for weapon swapping in half. I did also learn that your armor/outfit does not play a role in this, as well there will be multiple different looks available for Soul, they only provide visual changes, no actual gameplay benefits. And in general, Phantom Blade Zero takes a somewhat unique approach to character progression. The devs made it very clear that they don't want you to grind, so there is nothing to be gained by repeatedly grinding mobs for experience and resources. In fact, mobs don't even respawn when you use a checkpoint to rest and refill your healing flasks, only if you travel to a different region of the map. You will be able to upgrade your character's stats, but in order to do so, you have to look for various specific items. These amber stones will increase your max shot chi if you collect 4 of them, and the black ones increase both health and break damage, both by a pretty significant 20 to 30%. And by finding these special ghostly flowers that also reveal a bit more of the current area story, you're eventually able to increase your max health, something that you definitely want to do before facing the final boss of this area. And what a boss fight that is. It's honestly one of the most unique fights I've played in a long time, because depending on how you do it, there are effectively 4 different phases. The first part consists of the boss, the chief disciple, and his cohort of swordsmen. While you are technically fighting multiple foes, their movements are choreographed to feel more like you're fighting a single enemy, like this move where the lead swordsman signals the grunts to all strike at the same time. The little guys can also heal the main enemy, so you can't just focus down on the disciple either. As soon as you clear that first health bar, phase 2 starts, where the chief is drawn into the air and being puppeteered like a marionette, which creates a very interesting style of movement that really throws off your parry timings on your first attempt. The good thing is though that once you've cleared the first phase, every next attempt starts from this point, so you only have to make it through the squad of fighters once. But there is an additional twist, because once this second phase reaches half health, the disciple will summon a second boss called the Red Wraith to back him up, who has a separate health bar and needs to be defeated individually. While much like phase 1, many of their attacks are in tandem, they are relentless, meaning it is very hard to find a spot to heal once both are on the field. But you can actually skip this phase, because earlier in the level you already get an encounter with the Red Wraith. If you defeat her there, in this rooftop duel, she will not show up during the chief disciple boss at all. Although the team did hint that defeating them together unlocks more of the story and might even be important for a side quest of some sort. If you do fight them together and beat the Wraith, the disciple actually goes into an enraged mode where he unlocks a new and very dangerous combo. So even though you're back to fighting a single foe, he's even more dangerous in this final stretch of the fight. But you are rewarded with an incredibly cool cinematic finisher once you beat him, and in case it wasn't clear, the animations during combat in Phantom Blade look absolutely stellar. I can't get enough of some of the enemy unique finishers that are in the game, and the fact that there will be many more in the full product has me really excited. And even though I was able to play over 3 hours, I was still left wanting to play more, which is obviously a very good sign. I feel like I've only scratched the surface of what some of these weapons are able to do, and while I still have many questions about progression and exploration, the game nails one of the most important aspects. Because even without any loot or skill rewards, the combat in Phantom Blade Zero feels so satisfying that it just kept me coming back for more. When we learn more about the game, we will of course let you know here, so subscribe to not miss any news and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you want, you can watch Jordan's hands-on impression from an earlier demo by clicking on the screen, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!